Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Real Sports Updates here. Back again with another video. So y'all see the title of this video. You guys see the thumbnail. We're about a week away now. Week away from the week 1 matchup between the Raiders and the Chargers. Live from SoFi Stadium. It's going to be I believe, a 1:25 p.m. start. So it's going to be a really good game to start off the season. Now, there are question marks that the Raiders have that are really not being addressed right now. And a lot of the mainstream sports media is not really talking about this. And this is a huge issue, I think, for any team to have. If any team had this, right? Doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. Doesn't matter who you have at running back, who you have at wide receiver, tight end. The list goes on, so on and so forth. Doesn't really matter who you have, right? If your offensive line is not solidified, if your offensive line is not established, and if you cannot count on those 5 guys up front, your team really is not a competitor, right? It doesn't matter. You know, you can have whoever you want on the outside. It's all window dressing, right? The meat and potatoes of every football team always starts up front, right? Offense, defense, it always starts up front. You need the big hogs. You need the big guys to be able to do their jobs, right? And you need to be able to count on them, right? Not only for protection, right? Not only to keep your quarterback upright, but you have to establish the line of scrimmage and be physical. And, you know, this is how championships are won, right? You know, and you don't necessarily have to be the best at it in the league, but you do need to be solid. And the Raiders just have way too many offensive line question marks for me to take them seriously. Now, is this something that they can fix throughout the season? Possibly, yes. But me, you know, being an objective fan, it's no, question that I am a Charger fan. Clearly, I'm a Charger fan. I do a lot of Charger content, most Charger content, but I'm still an objective football fan. And when I look at the Raider team, I look at everything that they have. I look at the skill positions, and I'm blown away, right? I'm blown away. They are, you know, very good at the skill positions. But I look at this offensive line and I start to wonder, how long can this hold up, right? Over a 17-game season? I don't know. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into right now. So the Raiders are quietly having a right tackle crisis. Their starting right tackle from last season, Brandon Parker, is on IR. He started 13 games for the Raiders last season at right tackle. And, you know, he was not the greatest right tackle in the world, but he's not the worst either. You know, he's solid, right? He's a guy that you can count on. And obviously he played well enough for the Raiders to, you know, make a playoff run last year. So you have to give credit to him. You have to give credit to the team for that. So he is a solid guy. They are going to miss him. Now, we all know the Raiders cut bait with Alex Leatherwood. He was the 2021 first-round draft pick. You know, and as much as I want to get on the Raiders for that, the brain trust they have in Las Vegas now did not draft him. That was a John Gruden and Mike Mayock pick. It seems like they just drafted all the guys from big schools. Any guy from a big school they drafted, right? Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. If you're from a big school, you were drafted by the Raiders, right? Didn't matter how good you were. So I can't really, you know, I can't get on them too much for that because the guys who drafted him are not there anymore. And they cut bait with him. And, you know, obviously that was the right decision to make. If he was a 4th-round pick, I would say, you know, you should probably keep him around, you know, maybe a practice squad guy. But he's a 1st-round pick. They owe him big money. So, you know, it was the right decision to make. The right tackle position, at this point right now, it looks like it's going to be played by Jermaine Illuminor, I think his name, Illuminor. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. But it looks like he will be the starting right tackle come week 1. Now, this guy is, again, he is not the worst player, but he's also not the best. You know, he was okay. I believe he was with was he with the Patriots last year or the year before last? But he played under Josh McDaniels in the offense. So I think he is a guy that is, I think he might be able to hold his own just depending on what the matchup is and how Josh McDaniels and the offense, how they want to scheme their offense, right? Are they going to give him a lot of help? Are they going to leave him out on the island? If they leave him out on the island, he's probably going to give up some sacks, right? Against Khalil Mack, against Joey Bosa week 1, he probably will, if they leave him out on the island. So it just depends on how they call offense. What do they do? Do they put tight ends on his side? Do they chip? How do they scheme their offense, right? Is it a quick game? There's a lot of things they can do to, minimize the risk that they have at right tackle if he doesn't pan out. But again, just looking at week 1, there are some things that they can do, but just going, along the 17-game season, how are the Raiders going to figure this out, right? They have their backup right tackle, Thayer Mumford. He is from Ohio State. He's a rookie from Ohio State. He was a 7th-round draft pick. He's a big kid. He looks the part, but I think he's very young, and I don't think he is ready to actually go in there and play against some of the best defensive ends, some of the best defensive linemen in, the NFL. I don't think he's ready for that. There's another big question mark right next to the right tackle is the right guard, and it is Lester Cotton. I believe he is from Alabama. Another guy from Alabama. He's starting at right tackle. At right guard. And, again, not the best, not the worst. But there are question marks about all of these guys who I'm speaking of. And when you have a team that has so many weapons, when you have, the skill positions at the disposal of your quarterback, you need to make sure that your offensive line is solidified. Again, I can say this 100 times during this video. There are too many question marks for me to take the Raiders seriously. And I think the Chargers are going to exploit this in week 1. What I think the Chargers are going to do in week 1, I think they're going to do a lot of, I'm not sure if they're going to do a lot of blitzing. It depends on if J.C. Jackson is healthy and he's 100% ready to go, and he's ready to go man to man, then I think the Chargers can bring more blitzes. They didn't really do a whole lot of that last year, but I think Staley wants to do it this year. He wants to get a little bit more aggressive. So there could be some blitzing going on, but I think the Chargers are going to do a lot of stunting up front. I think they're going to play a lot of games with the offensive line, because the one thing is that if your offensive line is not solidified, it doesn't take blitzing to get to them. You don't need it to even go there. A lot of stunts, a lot of games along the defensive line can really frazzle a weaker offensive line. And I think the Raiders have one of the weaker offensive lines in the NFL. Preseason stats are really not, they really don't hold a lot of weight, but the Raiders gave up the most sacks in the preseason. They gave up 15 sacks in the preseason. So again, that's not the end all be all, but it is something to look at, because a lot of their offensive line starters got a lot of playing time. So this is something to look at here. And, as far as defensive lines go, the Raiders didn't see any defensive line in the preseason that looks like the Chargers defensive line right now. They have not seen any of them that look any resemblance to what the Chargers have. Their Chargers got some dogs up front. So that's why I think they can really get to Derek Carr. They can really collapse the pocket. They can really put a lot of pressure on Derek Carr without blitzing. Obviously Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, those guys they're going to get theirs, right? No matter what the scheme is, no matter what the offense plans, those guys are going to get theirs because they are going to win their one-on-one matchups. And obviously you can't double both of these guys. So it's, going to be a kind of a scenario where, you pick your poison, right? Do you let Bosa get to you? Do you let Khalil Mack get to you? Both these guys, obviously they play the run really well as well too. So you can't really exploit them there. Both of these guys are as strong as it gets on the edge. So those are issues you already have to worry about. But then you're going to have to worry about the guys in the middle as well, too. Austin Johnson is a guy, he's going to eat up double teams, right? He's going to let the linebackers, he's going to let Van Noy, he's going to let Kenneth Murray fly in, make tackles, right? Be able to play downhill and, really just try to get it in there and establish a physical presence right there at the line of scrimmage. Sebastian Joseph Day is going to do the same thing as well, too. Morgan Fox is a guy, he's going to collapse the pocket. He can get pressure on the quarterback, even from that 3 technique. So the Chargers have a lot of guys up front who can get the job done. And they can all get the job done in one-on-one matchups without any blitzing. Now, if they want to get exotic and they want to bring some blitzes and they maybe want to try to confuse Derek Carr and all of that stuff, that's a whole nother level of, football that, if that goes on, then I think, the Raiders can get embarrassed if that goes on, if that type of thing goes on. But I think if you just line these guys up one-on-one, the Chargers have much, much better defensive players than the Raiders do offensive linemen. Now, the left tackle position is solid for the Raiders. Miller, I think his name is Colton Miller. He's solid. He's a pretty good left tackle. The left guard, John Simpson, is, there's kind of a question mark about him as well, too. And their center is solid, too, Andre James. So they have two solid guys that I think are reliable. The other three guys are question marks. Right tackle, right guard, and then left guard. These are all kind of question marks. And these are matchups. If I'm a Raider fan, I'm worried about these guys in one-on-one matchups. How well do they hold up, over 4 quarters? Because, if they come out and, the Raiders play with tempo and, they're able to score early or whatever, how do they hold up along 4 quarters? Because, one good quarter, one good drive, 2 good drives, that is not going to make the entire 60 minutes. The Raiders have to be able not only to just block for Derek Carr, keep him upright, they have to be able to develop something in the running game. And Josh McDaniels is not the best offensive coach. Let's just say that. And I think he is a fraud to some degree. Without Tom Brady, he has not put together a successful offense in the NFL without Tom Brady. His first head coaching stop in Denver was a disaster. And his offensive coordinator stint with the Rams was a disaster as well, too. This guy has not shown that he can put together solid offense outside of Tom Brady. Tom Brady does not play for the Las Vegas Raiders. So, again, Josh McDaniels has to prove that he can do something outside of Tom Brady. And just from a football perspective, right, the Raiders have a lot of weapons out on the perimeter. But the way that Josh McDaniels, really crafted the offense with Tom Brady in New England, it wasn't the type of run and gun offense. It wasn't the type of offense that really featured, down the field stuff, with a lot of Raider fans are expecting that with Devontae Adams and Darren Waller and all that stuff. It wasn't really that type of offense. It was a short passing game, right, which kind of worked as a running game as well, too. But they kind of did a lot of intermediate things, and they didn't really take shots down the field. And that worked with Brady because obviously Brady is Brady. He is who he is. 7 Super Bowls, right, to go. We know this. Derek Carr is not Brady, though. So how does this offense work, really? That's the main question that you have to ask. How does this offense work with all of these guys here? Because this is not what Josh McDaniels had in New England. But, these are all questions that are going to be answered very shortly, right, in a week or so. These questions will be answered. But I think it was important to cover this because there's not a lot of mainstream media, any at all at this point, not a lot of mainstream sports media that's covering this. The Raiders have question marks. They have question marks. They, congratulations to them for making the playoffs last year. They beat the Chargers on a last-second field goal, and the Chargers, since that time have went out and have gotten exponentially better on both sides of the ball. The Raiders, I guess you can say that they have, but they've gotten weaker in the trenches or football games where championships are won. And, you can't just dismiss that and say, oh, they got Devontae Adams, so everything else is fine and dandy now. No, not really. Not really. So it's going to be interesting to see how does Josh McDaniels scheme this. Are they doing a lot of short passing game, or is he changing his philosophy? Are they going with the 7-step drops and all that stuff? Are you letting Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa get into your backfield? Are you trying to run the ball? And if you are running the ball, can you trust the right side of the line to hold up if you try to run the ball right? Or are you just staying on primarily on the left side? What do they do offensively? So just them having a bunch of weapons really doesn't do it for me, because philosophy wise and just coaching wise, I don't trust Josh McDaniels. I don't think he is a good head coach. I don't think that he is the best offensive coordinator either. Like I said, without Tom Brady, he has been exposed. His pants got pulled down everywhere he's went without Tom Brady. And, obviously, Devontae Adams is there, but Derek Carr is not anything close to what Aaron Rodgers is. And, Matt LaFleur is a better head coach than Josh McDaniels is. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered for the Raiders in order for me to take them seriously. Now, obviously, I've already said I think the Chargers win by 10 plus points in week 1, but this is going to be an issue that is going to follow the Raiders all season long until they rectify it. And, by rectifying it, meaning they're going to have to go out there probably on the free agent market. They're going to have to, try to test the waters of the trade market. They're going to have to rectify this if they want to have success this year. If they expect to have success, they are not. You're not winning anything with Lester Cotton and Jermaine Illuminor at on your right side of your offensive line. It's just not going to happen. And Raider fans might get mad at it, but facts are facts. So I'm not here to get involved emotionally. I'm just here to state these facts here, and the Chargers obviously have the advantage. But just wanted to come on here and point this out. This is something that people are not talking about, and they should be talking about as the game gets closer. I pointed this out, but I expect to hear a little something about this, at least a little something before kickoff on Sunday. Maybe sometime during the week or whatever, but we'll see what happens going forward. But that's all I got for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I really, really, really appreciate it. All the comments, all the likes, all the views. And shout out to all of my new subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. I will try to drop as much content as I possibly can, especially getting ramped up to go into the NFL regular season. So really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for all the support. And until next time.